County Durham is shaped by faith and industry. Beneath its halls, abbeys and villages, witnesses report moments that do not belong to the present. What happens when history refuses to fade? Hardwick Hall Manor Hotel. Set among quiet countryside near Blackhall Colliery, Hardwick Hall appears today as a peaceful manor hotel. Its stone facade and surrounding landscape suggest calm and retreat. Yet beneath this tranquility lies a story rooted in one of the most violent periods of English history, a story many believe the land itself has not forgotten. During the English Civil War, Hardwick Hall was occupied by a family loyal to the crown. When word reached them that parliamentarian forces were approaching, they fled in haste, taking their valuables with them. Left behind was an elderly housekeeper entrusted with managing the hall in their absence. The family believed the advancing Roundhead soldiers would not harm an old woman. They were wrong. According to local accounts, when Cromwell's forces arrived and found the hall stripped of wealth, their frustration turned to cruelty. The housekeeper was tortured for information she did not have before being brutally killed. Her death was not the result of battle, but of rage, a moment of violence inflicted on someone powerless to escape. Since that time, her spirit is said to haunt the grounds between Hardwick Hall and nearby Monkhesleden Church. Witnesses have described the presence of an unseen figure moving along this route, often accompanied by a sudden sense of heaviness and unease. Some report feeling watched, while others describe the atmosphere as oppressive, particularly at dusk. Within the hall itself, another apparition has been reported, a grey lady seen floating down the main staircase. The most unusual detail surrounding this sighting comes from workmen who encountered her while the hall was undergoing refurbishment. Shortly after her appearance, footprints were discovered impressed into freshly varnished flooring, despite no one else having walked through the area. It is unclear whether this figure has been seen in more recent years. Yet the story remains firmly attached to the building, passed down through generations of staff and locals. Paranormal researchers suggest Hardwick Hall may host a residual haunting, a replay of trauma bound to place rather than awareness. Others believe the Grey Lady represents an intelligent presence marked by injustice and unresolved fear. Skeptics argue that folklore has grown around a dramatic chapter of history, but many visitors unaware of the story describe an unshakable discomfort when walking the grounds. Hardwick Hall stands as a reminder that war leaves scars far beyond the battlefield. Some are written into the land itself, and in County Durham, the past does not always remain silent. Heugh Battery Museum, perched above the North Sea on the headland at Hartlepool Heugh Battery, stands as a reminder of Britain's coastal defences during times of war. Constructed in the late 19th century and used through both World Wars, the battery once protected the town from naval attack. Today, it serves as a museum preserving artillery uniforms and military history. Yet many believe the site remains guarded by more than memory alone. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at Heugh Battery is the apparition of a phantom soldier. Witnesses describe seeing a lone figure patrolling the grounds, particularly at night or during quiet periods when the museum is closed. The figure is often seen walking with purpose, as though still on duty, before fading from view without sound. Heavy footsteps are another common experience. Staff and visitors have reported hearing the unmistakable rhythm of marching boots echoing across the concrete walkways and gun emplacements. These sounds sometimes occur when no one else is present, and on occasion seem to approach before stopping abruptly. Several witnesses have also reported the sudden smell of gunpowder lingering in the air, despite no weapons being fired and no historical demonstrations taking place at the time. The scent appears briefly and then disappears, leaving no clear explanation. A local newspaper article published in 2023 added further weight to the battery's reputation. According to the report, objects in the museum's gift shop were found moved or knocked over overnight, despite the area being secured. Items appeared to have fallen in ways that could not be explained by vibration or accident alone. Paranormal researchers suggest the activity at Heugh Battery may represent a classic residual haunting. As a military outpost, the site was once a place of constant vigilance, discipline, and stress. Some believe these conditions may have imprinted moments of routine behavior, such as patrols and marches, into the environment itself. Others argue that coastal weather, wind, and structural noise could account for some experiences. Sea air carries sound unpredictably, and old fortifications are known to produce unusual acoustics. Yet many witnesses insist the experiences feel deliberate rather than accidental. The timing, repetition, and consistency of reports suggest something more than coincidence. Heugh Battery was built to defend Hartlepool from unseen threats beyond the horizon. Though the guns have long fallen silent, some believe the duty never truly ended. Here, along the cliffs overlooking the sea, the watch may still continue, carried out by someone who never stood down. Egglestone Abbey, nestled beside a bend in the River Tees near Barnard Castle, the ruins of Egglestone Abbey stand quiet and isolated. Founded in the 12th century, the Premonstratensian Abbey once served as a place of prayer, discipline, and strict religious order. Today, only stone walls and arches remain, but many believe the Abbey's most tragic story still returns from the water below. According to long-standing legend, a young servant girl working at the Abbey fell in love with one of the canons known as Brother Martin. Their relationship was forbidden, and when the girl became an inconvenience to his religious life, Martin was advised by fellow monks to put her from his mind. What followed, according to folklore, was an act of betrayal that bound both their fates to the river. The servant girl is said to have been thrown into the River Tees by her lover. Witnesses over the centuries have claimed that her spirit rises from the water opposite the Abbey, ruins screaming in anguish as the river swells around her. These sightings are most often reported during periods of flooding when the river runs high and fast, blurring the boundary between land and water. In some versions of the legend, guilt drove Brother Martin to drown himself in the same river. His apparition has reportedly been seen wandering the Abbey ruins, moving silently among the broken walls. On rare occasions, both figures are said to appear together, the drowned lovers briefly reunited when the river is in flood. Visitors to Egglestone Abbey often describe a sudden sense of unease near the riverbank, even in daylight. The air feels heavier, and the sound of flowing water becomes overwhelming. Some report hearing cries carried by the wind, though no clear words can be identified. Others describe shadowy figures glimpsed among the ruins before vanishing behind stone arches. Paranormal researchers suggest Egglestone Abbey may represent a combination of residual and folkloric haunting. The repetition of sightings during flooding supports the idea of environmental triggers activating the legend. The emotional intensity of betrayal, shame, and death may have become bound to both the Abbey and the river itself. Skeptics argue that river noise, mist, and light distortion can easily create illusions, particularly in such a dramatic landscape. Medieval ruins also invite powerful storytelling passed down and reshaped over generations. Yet many visitors report similar experiences without prior knowledge of the legend. Egglestone Abbey stands as a place where faith once demanded silence and obedience. But beside the River Tees, some believe a story never accepted that silence. Here the past does not rest beneath the water. It rises. Castle Eden Inn. Standing along Stockton Road in the village of Castle Eden, the Castle Eden Inn appears unremarkable at first glance, a traditional roadside inn serving locals and travelers alike. Yet behind its ordinary exterior lies a reputation that has unsettled staff and visitors for generations. The most disturbing presence associated with the inn is believed to be the spirit of a man who took his own life in the old stables, now converted into a function room. According to accounts, he hanged himself there many years ago, leaving behind a violent emotional imprint that has never fully faded. Those who enter the former stable area often report an immediate sense of discomfort. Some describe a tightening sensation around the throat, as though invisible hands are pressing against their neck. Others experience sudden breathlessness, dizziness, or panic without any clear cause. These sensations tend to fade once they leave the room, but the memory remains vivid. In addition to these physical effects, witnesses have reported seeing the apparition of a man lingering near the function room and adjoining areas. He is rarely described in detail, more a presence than a form, yet his hostility is frequently mentioned. Unlike many hauntings, this spirit is not passive. Visitors often describe feeling unwelcome, as though they are intruding on something that does not wish to be disturbed. A second apparition has also been reported at the inn. A phantom woman has been seen looking out from an upstairs window, her figure pale and still. She is often observed briefly vanishing when attention is drawn to her. Little is known about her identity, and no clear historical record links her to the building, adding to the mystery. Other unexplained phenomena include doors opening and closing without cause, sudden cold patches in specific rooms, and the sound of footsteps when the inn is otherwise empty. Staff members have reported feeling watched while working alone, particularly late at night. Paranormal investigators suggest the Castle Eden Inn may host an intelligent haunting, especially in the former stables. The reported physical sensations indicate an awareness of visitors and an attempt to interact or repel those who enter the space. Skeptics argue that suggestion and anxiety can trigger physical responses, particularly in locations with dark histories. Old buildings also shift and settle, creating unexplained sounds. Yet the consistency of reports over time, especially involving the choking sensation, is difficult to dismiss. The Castle Eden Inn remains open and welcoming by day. But when night falls and the rooms grow quiet, some believe the building remembers a final act of despair. Here, death did not bring release. It stayed tightening its grip on anyone who comes too close. Wynyard Hall, set within vast landscaped grounds near Stockton-on-Tees, Wynyard Hall is a grand Georgian estate long associated with power, wealth, and social authority. Its elegant galleries, mirrored rooms, and formal corridors project refinement and control. Yet behind this polished image lies a haunting that many believe is anything but passive. The most well-known spirit linked to Wynyard Hall is a figure referred to as the Grey Lady. Unlike traditional apparitions that wander halls or staircases, this presence is said to emerge directly from mirrors, particularly those in the Duke's Gallery. Witnesses describe seeing a pale female figure form slowly within the reflection before stepping forward, leaving the mirror empty once again. Encounters with the Grey Lady are often accompanied by sudden changes in the environment. Doors have been reported to slam shut or lock themselves without warning, sometimes trapping people briefly inside rooms. Burglar alarms have activated with no intruder present, only to reset moments later. These incidents often occur in the same sections of the building, suggesting a pattern rather than random malfunction. Staff working alone have described the sensation of being watched, particularly in rooms with large mirrors or polished surfaces. Some report avoiding eye contact with reflections altogether, fearing they might see something looking back. Cold spots are frequently noted in the gallery, even during warm weather, along with an oppressive stillness that seems to press inward. On several occasions, witnesses have claimed to hear footsteps pacing nearby, only to find corridors empty. The sound is deliberate and measured as though someone is walking with purpose rather than wandering aimlessly. Paranormal investigators suggest the Grey Lady may represent an intelligent, haunting a presence aware of its surroundings and capable of interacting with the environment. The mirror-related manifestations are particularly unusual, leading some to theorize that reflective surfaces act as a focal point for the activity. Skeptics argue that mirrors distort light and perception, and that old electrical systems are prone to faults. However, those who experience the phenomenon often report intense emotional reactions rather than simple surprise, unease, anxiety, and the feeling of being deliberately observed. Wynyard Hall remains a place of beauty and prestige, but within its reflective galleries, some believe a presence still moves, watching quietly, stepping out only when no one expects it. Here, the past does not hide in shadows. It waits in reflection. The Potthouse, located on Croft Terrace near Hartlepool's historic docks. The Potthouse is a former industrial building that has been transformed into a bar and restaurant. From the outside, it carries the quiet charm of a repurposed working space. Inside, however, many believe the building has retained more than just its structure. Over the years, staff and visitors have reported a range of unexplained encounters, most notably involving two recurring figures. The first is a woman seen moving through the premises as if adjusting or putting on a storm coat. One witness described her exiting the ladies' toilets and walking calmly toward the restaurant area before vanishing without sound. She appeared solid and purposeful, giving no immediate impression of being anything other than a living person. The second and more widely recognized presence is a male spirit known locally as Albert. He is described as an older man wearing a flat cap, often seen sitting quietly in a particular section of the building. Staff members have reported noticing him from a distance, only for him to disappear when approached. His presence is generally described as calm, almost familiar, rather than threatening. A newspaper article published in 2023 brought renewed attention to the hauntings at the Potthouse. According to the report, Albert has been seen repeatedly over the years, suggesting a consistent and enduring presence. The article also mentions another unidentified male figure observed moving between different areas of the building, though little is known about this second apparition. In addition to visual sightings, witnesses have reported unexplained noises, footsteps when the building is quiet, chairs shifting slightly, and the sensation of someone passing close by when no one is visible. Some staff describe sudden temperature changes in specific areas, particularly near closing time. Paranormal researchers suggest that the Potthouse may be the site of residual hauntings linked to its industrial past, combined with at least one intelligent presence. Albert, in particular, is thought to be a spirit attached to routine and place returning to familiar surroundings rather than reenacting trauma. Skeptics argue that reflections, fatigue, and suggestion play a role in such experiences, yet many encounters have occurred during busy service hours, witnessed by multiple people. Today, the Potthouse is a lively social space, but when the lights dim and conversations fade, some believe its former occupants remain sitting quietly, watching and waiting as they always have. The Borough Hall. Standing on Middlegate in Hartlepool's historic Headland district, the Borough Hall has long been a place of authority and public duty. Built to host civic meetings, legal proceedings, and administrative decisions, the building once represented order and control. Yet many believe that within its walls, something still exercises influence. One of the most frequently reported apparitions at the Borough Hall is a figure known as the Grey Lady. Witnesses describe her as a pale female presence, often seen moving quietly through corridors or appearing briefly near doorways. Her movements are slow and deliberate, as though she is surveying the space, rather than wandering aimlessly. Another recurring figure is that of an elderly man dressed in an old-fashioned overcoat. He has been seen standing silently in rooms once used for official gatherings. His appearance is often fleeting, vanishing when approached or when attention is drawn directly toward him. Beyond visual sightings, the Borough Hall is known for dramatic environmental changes. Heavy footsteps have been heard echoing through empty rooms and along staircases, sometimes loud enough to suggest someone deliberately pacing the building. These sounds often occur late in the day or during quiet periods when no staff are present. One of the most unsettling aspects of the hauntings is the extreme fluctuation in temperature reported by witnesses. Some describe sudden waves of cold, followed by brief moments of oppressive warmth occurring without any obvious cause. These changes are often localized, affecting only a specific area of a room. Objects have also been reported to move seemingly in response to requests. On at least one occasion, a sideboard drawer is said to have opened by itself after someone commented on the strange atmosphere in the room. Curtains have been seen swinging, despite closed windows and still air. Paranormal investigators suggest that the Borough Hall may host intelligent hauntings spirits aware of human presence and capable of interaction. The apparent responsiveness of the phenomena supports this theory, distinguishing it from residual replay. Skeptics argue that old buildings experience drafts, shifting materials, and electrical irregularities. However, the precision and timing of certain events continue to unsettle those who work there. Today, the Borough Hall stands as a symbol of civic history. But when its rooms fall silent, many believe authority has not entirely departed. Here, the past does not merely linger. It listens and sometimes responds. The County, situated on the green in the historic village of Aycliffe. The County is a traditional public house that has served the local community for generations. By day, it is a familiar social space, warm, welcoming, and unremarkable. Yet after closing time, the atmosphere is said to change in ways that are subtle, persistent, and deeply unsettling. Unlike more dramatic hauntings involving apparitions or violent disturbances, the activity at the County has always been quieter and perhaps more disturbing because of it. Staff working late or locking up for the night have reported hearing voices coming from within the building after it has been fully secured. These voices are described as low and conversational, as though people are still gathered inside, yet every room is found empty. On several occasions, the sound of the bar piano has reportedly been heard playing on its own. The music is never loud or clear, but faint and distant, as if someone were idly pressing the keys rather than performing a tune. When staff return to investigate, the piano is silent and no explanation can be found. What makes these experiences particularly unsettling is the lack of any visual confirmation. There are no shadowy figures, no sudden cold blasts, no objects violently moving. Instead, the activity suggests presence rather than manifestation, something remaining behind once the doors are locked. Former staff members have described a lingering sensation of being accompanied while alone in the building. Some report the feeling of someone standing just out of sight, especially near the bar area or in adjoining rooms. Others mention an unexplained awareness that they are not the last to leave even when they know they should be. Paranormal researchers suggest that the County may be an example of a residual haunting, a repetition of familiar routines tied to a place of long social gathering. Voices, music, and movement may represent emotional imprints rather than conscious spirits. Skeptics argue that old buildings carry sound in unusual ways, particularly late at night when external noise drops. Heating systems, settling timbers, and distant traffic can all produce convincing illusions. Yet those who experience the phenomena often insist on the clarity and familiarity of the sounds voices that feel close, personal, and deliberate. Today, the county remains quieter than it once was, and reports of activity have become less frequent. Still, its reputation endures, because some places do not announce their hauntings. They continue as if nothing has changed, talking softly, playing music, and refusing to accept that the night has ended. Shotton Hall, set within landscaped grounds in the village of Shotton Hall, presents itself as an elegant country house, now operating as a hotel and venue. Its refined exterior and peaceful surroundings give little indication of the stories that have followed the building for generations, stories rooted in secrecy, despair, and unresolved emotion. The most frequently mentioned spirit associated with Shotton Hall is known locally as Gertie. According to legend, she was a kitchen maid who entered into an affair with the owner of the house. When the relationship ended in disgrace, Gertie is said to have taken her own life, unable to escape the shame and consequences of the situation. Unlike many hostile hauntings, Gertie's presence is generally described as gentle and comforting. Staff and guests have reported the unexpected smell of freshly baked pies appearing suddenly in the building, particularly near the kitchen area. The scent often fades as quickly as it arrives, leaving no physical source behind. In addition to Gertie, a second apparition known as the Grey Lady has been reported. Witnesses describe seeing a pale female figure moving through corridors or standing silently in rooms before vanishing. Her presence is often linked to unexplained noises rather than direct interaction. One of the most curious phenomena at Shotton Hall involves sound. A heavy file of papers has been heard being dropped onto the boardroom table, despite no one being present. On other occasions, a doorbell has rung repeatedly, even though the bell itself no longer exists. Staff members working alone have described hearing footsteps and the soft movement of furniture, particularly during quiet periods in the evening. These sounds are often clear and deliberate, suggesting purposeful movement rather than random noise. Paranormal investigators believe Shotton Hall may host multiple types of haunting. Gertie is thought to represent an intelligent spirit, aware, familiar, and tied emotionally to the routines of the house. The Grey Lady and unexplained sounds may represent residual energy replaying moments of past life. Skeptics argue that scent memories, old plumbing, and acoustics can account for many experiences. However, the consistency of reports over decades, particularly involving the same smells and sounds, continues to intrigue. Shotton Hall remains a place of hospitality and comfort, but beneath its calm surface, many believe something still works quietly, cooking, watching, and listening. Here, tragedy did not turn to anger. It settled into routine. Holy Trinity Church. Standing on Front Street in the village of Wingate, Holy Trinity Church is a modest parish church surrounded by a peaceful graveyard. By day, it appears unremarkable, a familiar place of worship serving a small community. Yet for decades, one feature of the churchyard has drawn quiet attention and unease. Near the church lies a polished black marble gravestone belonging to the Longstaff family. Unlike the surrounding stones, this grave is said to behave strangely after dark. Multiple witnesses have reported that the marble surface begins to emit a faint orange glow visible in low light conditions and sometimes lasting several minutes before fading. The glow is not bright or dramatic. It does not illuminate the surrounding ground, nor does it flicker like reflected light. Instead, it appears contained within the stone itself, a dull internal warmth that seems to rise from beneath the polished surface. Those who have witnessed the phenomenon often describe an immediate sense of unease rather than fear. Some report a sudden silence falling over the churchyard, as if sound itself has been muted. Others describe feeling watched while standing near the grave despite being entirely alone. Attempts to explain the glow have been inconclusive. Suggestions include mineral reactions within the marble residual heat or environmental factors such as moisture and temperature change. However, no consistent natural explanation has been proven, and the effect does not occur on every visit. Unlike many haunted locations, Holy Trinity Church is not associated with apparitions, voices, or movement. There are no reports of figures walking the grounds, no footsteps, and no disembodied sounds. What unsettles witnesses is precisely this lack of activity. Paranormal researchers suggest the phenomenon may represent residual energy rather than a conscious presence, an imprint tied to the land or the burial itself. Others propose that the glow acts as a psychological trigger, heightening awareness and expectation in an already emotionally charged environment. Skeptics argue that darkness and suggestion can distort perception, especially when a story is already known. Yet several witnesses reported seeing the glow without prior knowledge of the legend. Holy Trinity Church remains a place of quiet reflection. The graveyard is peaceful, and the church continues its role within the community. But when night falls and the village grows still, some believe one stone refuses complete darkness. No movement, no sound, just a reminder that not all hauntings announce themselves. Some simply wait glowing softly, long after the living have gone. County Durham may look quiet once the lights go out, but beneath its churches, halls, and old roads, the past still leaves traces. If any of these stories stayed with you, share your thoughts below. And for more true haunted history across Britain, you're welcome to follow Creepy Experience.